2 weeks ago, I made the argument that it was the best weekend in Pittsburgh sports in our lifetimes, and the Steelers decided, man, you haven't seen anything yet. Holy crap! What in the heck did we just witness, David? Was this okay? Here's what I'll first ask you, David. Is this the best iteration of Steelers Ravens that we have seen in our lifetime? That's my question.
Oh, that's a tough question. Two games immediately come to mind that go above it. I think we'll see how the season goes. But I mean, first off, that's saying something. That only two games since 2008 are coming up. And all I can think of is the Immaculate Extension on Christmas Day. And then, honestly, for some reason, I mean, not for some reason, it was a good game. In 2020, when we were at Baltimore and they had one loss and we were undefeated, and Minka Fitzpatrick batted the ball down at the goal line to end the game and win, that was insane. Other than that, since 2008, I don't think so.
What about Troy Polamalu's interception to take him to the Super Bowl? Do you think that one exceeds this game? Because that's probably the only one, and then the Immaculate Extension, that I think can maybe make an argument for this one. Would you agree with that one or not?
I would, yeah. I meant when I was saying since 2008, I was meaning post 2008 because all three of those 2008 games are just amazing. So it's like I feel like I can't even talk about those.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, I think that's. I'd honestly be totally confident putting this one before the 2025 thing, or 2020 game. So yeah, but what a game indeed. This, and a little spoiler alert, I guess, but what a way to end the Harbaugh versus Mike Tomlin rivalry. Isn't that insane?
I mean, I just got the news. I mean, this happened like 15 minutes ago, essentially.
Yeah.
This is fresh news. John Harbaugh is no longer the coach of the Ravens, which I think Ravens fans would probably be pretty excited about because, you know, as much as we've had our grievances with Tomlin, they've had their grievances with Harbaugh. But for that matter alone, it's like, yeah, this is the final straw in that rivalry. I mean, if you figure, too, Harbaugh and Tomlin has been over half of the entirety of Steelers-Ravens because the Ravens came to be in 1997. 97 or 96, one of those. It was 96, actually, because it's 30 years now. These two coaches have been at it for over half of this rivalry. And I would make the argument that it is one of, if not the best rivalry in football. I would say absolutely right now, but I think there's definitely some arguments to be made about Steelers-Ravens being the best rivalry composite ever in the NFL. And I think, you know, obviously Packers and Bears comes to mind. You've got like the Cowboys and Niners from like their time in the playoffs and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, the NFL, while we might have a script for what's going on, they nailed it with this script. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better ending game.
No, you couldn't have. And I think that, like, as Steelers fans and as Ravens fans too, we just need to take a minute and soak this up because I was thinking about it. Like, why has this been the best rivalry for basically 20 years in sports? And I think it's because, like, when you look at college rivalries are so much more intense most of the time than NFL rivalries. And it's because it's like a college. Like, sure, players change, but that college is going nowhere. When it comes to the Steelers-Ravens, really the birth of the rivalry was Harbaugh and Tomlin. And it's like those two have not changed. And I think that's why it stayed so great. It's because they've literally played like how Michigan does against Ohio State, where it's like they literally prepare their season for how can we also beat Ohio State. And I think that that's what Harbaugh and Tomlin were doing for so many years. And it's what created this unbelievably amazing rivalry. And if this is the last chapter, which who knows, you know, I think our rivalry will keep going. But if this was an unbelievable last chapter, and I think that this, correct, I don't know if I even fully believe this statement, but seeing Harbaugh getting fired made me believe that if we lost, maybe Tomlin was getting fired. Because I think that Harbaugh was just in a stable position that Tomlin was. And it honestly shocked me that they fired him.
I would say that from my perspective, I thought that because of the way that this game played out, and I think I said this last week, that whoever loses this game, their coach is going to get fired. But the way that the game played out, just in the final 5 minutes, it's like, you know, we can't really fire our head coach after that because it was just haymaker, and a couple bounces of the football. Zay Flowers beating this coverage twice, you know, a missed extra points, a missed field goal, like all of these things. If it goes one different way, then the other team wins the game. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, well, yes, the Ravens lost, and sure, Harbaugh was on the hot seat because of this game. If they lose, then yes, he's going to be gone. But I thought that the way that the game played out, I'm like, you almost can't fire a guy after something like that. Did you kind of feel the same?
I did. Like, I thought that he was pretty locked in after this game, especially because of what you said. Like, especially that field goal. They were in field goal range, like, to win the game. And there was a really cool clip of him walking back to the locker room with Tyler Loop, just being by his side. After I saw that, I was like, I love John Harbaugh. Can't stand him as a Raven. I can love him more now that he's not a Raven. But I do think that he is at a different level than Tomlin, even though the past few years have been a lot. But anyways, I was shocked that he got fired, especially because our friend Mike texted in our fantasy group chat, kind of beginning of the day, and was like, "How are we feeling?" And I think my first text was, I have no idea what to." I think my text was, "I have no idea what to expect. I think it's going to be two teams trying to lose, and we're going to see what happens." And sure enough, the 1 yard line wacky play that we had, the blown coverage. Well, no, sorry. He's just not wrapping up the sack for Lamar and that play. And then the Ravens kicking it out of bounds. So we get the ball at the 40-yard line right after that. And then go back to us just completely blowing up the coverage. You have three guys on one man. And then go back to us missing. Well, one, they leave Calvin Austin wide open. We miss an extra point, which we never do. And then the kicker missed his first field goal within 50 yards. Like, there was so many plays where it was like mind blown.
Yes, it was just an absolute fever dream. I mean, I want to pretty much the whole game. I mean, I would say that probably the first 50 minutes of the game was just classic Ravens Steelers, just throwing these big punches. The running game is like every inch, every yard is hard to come by. I mean, it was 10-3 in the first half. It could have been 10-10 if they would have converted on that, that goal line play. And I'll say this too. That was an unbelievably atrocious play call by Arthur Smith on that one. It's like they motion Jonnu Smith out to the right, and then they run Kenneth Gainwell to the left. That play was never going to work in a million years. And it's like, that's what you dial up in that moment right there in a situation where you could tie the game going into half and you get the ball coming out of half. That was like, that really irked me. But I will say, the way they adjusted in the second half, you saw almost this adjustment to Aaron Rodgers almost going into this 2-minute offense. When they had the 2-minute offense on the field, they were snappy. I mean, Rodgers was making his throws. Our guys were getting open. Everything was working. But you saw that early on in the game, when Arthur Smith is trying to call these plays, nothing's there. And I wonder, and I saw this theory, and I want to get your take on this. When Rodgers' helmet went out at the end of the game, and he's forced to call all these timeouts, do you think that he just called those timeouts on purpose so that he could run the 2-minute offense at the end of the game, knowing that they didn't have any way to stop the clock?
Well, that's an interesting theory because I was so frustrated because every timeout in the second half felt wasted, and it was just like, especially the second one. Like, and I remember saying, like, me and Kaylee were even both saying it, watching, like, specifically after the second timeout, it's like, what's Rodgers doing? Like, he changes a play at the line every time. It's like, why is he calling these timeouts? And so I wouldn't be shocked with him. You know how he is, and but yeah, I was really impressed with him the second half. That was a great point. Like, first half, second half were so different. And I think that could have been the factor because Chris Collinsworth was saying, like, this is like the final, this is what we're seeing. This is the final result Aaron Rodgers has worked for all season, working guys back and forth, going to his house to practice. And while he was saying this, I wanted to get the yellow pen that they have and circle that we only had 3 points in the game at that time. Because I was like, you're saying it's working, but we have 3 points. And then everything just opened wide up. And so I was like, okay, all right, you're right. And so, yeah, I think that we were just seeing a lot of control by him in those last specifically 2 drives.
And I want to give him the keys. I mean,
Yeah.
the more that I've watched Aaron Rodgers this year, and admittedly, when he was with the Packers, I didn't watch a lot of Packers games. But now it's like seeing him in his old age. I mean, he is the embodiment of a veteran quarterback. Like watching his brain work visually, like watching the TV, watching where his eyes go, watching him change the play at the line of scrimmage. It's like, it's a technician what he's doing out there. And even on the last play of the game, or that Calvin Austin ran for the touchdown, they did the post-game press conference with Rodgers, and Rodgers was talking about how Calvin Austin is kind of sheepish in the huddle. He's like, hey, Cal, what do you want to do? And Cal's like, whatever. And then he said, somebody to his right, he said it was either Freiermuth or McCormick, said, hey, man, just go cook him. And then Rodgers is like, looking at Calvin Austin, says, all right, run the hitch and go. And that's him working this technician type thing. And you saw what Calvin Austin did. He broke the dude's ankles 10 yards away and was by himself for an easy touchdown. Like, that's the type of stuff that Aaron Rodgers does. And this is the thing that we haven't seen since Ben Roethlisberger. Could Kenny Pickett do this? Absolutely not. Could Justin Fields do this? No. Could Russ do this, even in his veteran presence? Absolutely not. This Rodgers offense, while it does have its problems at times, Rodgers gives us a better shot than any quarterback we've had since Ben, and even late stage Ben, I would say probably even more so too.
I would have to agree. And I think that he proved it in his fourth quarter. And, I've had my doubts with him throughout the season and just have my qualms about offense in general. But, I think that they're coming through when it really matters. It's still crazy. My dad sent me a text. So we still haven't scored more than 7 points in the first quarter since, guess what? We haven't done it this entire season. We haven't done it the entire season of 2024. We have not done it the entire season of 2023. You know the last time we scored more than 7 points?
Enlighten me.
The week 1 of 2022.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Who do we play that week?
Oh, I remember. Oh, I know why we have more than 7. It was the Bengals, and it was the Minka Fitzpatrick pick 6.
You're right. That's right. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't that just blow your mind? Like, for 3 years, right? Yeah. 4 years, basically. We have not scored more than 7 points in the first quarter.
That's not sustainable. I mean, I guess it is. I don't know. I mean, they've been over 500, but it's at the same time, it's like if you score 14 points in the first quarter, then you're setting yourself up for success instead of having to play catch up all the time and having your entire fan base have heart attacks week in and week out.
Right. And like thinking, like you said, we're 500. We've gotten to the playoff most of these years. It's like, man, could you imagine if we scored 10 or 14 points in the first quarter? What would those games look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit at some point this year, but it's like last year, Mike Tomlin was saying we want to engineer victory more fluidly. And the way that you can do that is by scoring immediately when the game starts, right?
Right. Yeah. And we've just seen that just slow offense year after year, which is interesting. And I'm hoping that, looking towards the playoffs, that we can take this fourth quarter and kind of open it up to more of the entire game. But I mean, let's just break down some of these plays because I'll tell you what, I was like almost tears because of the way we were going to lose to pure shock. And I'll tell you, I've only cried at one Steeler game and I've only teared up at one other one. So it was pretty crazy that this game was like almost like it was I think I'm trying to think. The first time was the Ravens, like, because the whole time, before the fourth quarter, it was so nitty gritty. I had no idea what was going to happen. And I'll be honest, we didn't really look the best, especially offensively. Defensively, second half, we stuffed the run, which was awesome. But offensively, I was like, oh, man, like, it's the same team. I'm like, do I want this team to go to the playoffs? And then fourth quarter stuff's happening. And I'm like, okay. And then that play of Highsmith and Bennon missing Jackson and him throwing that touchdown, I was like, okay. Like, up until this point, I've been a little bit like, who's going to win? I don't know. But at this point, I was like, there's no way they're going to beat us this freaking way. I was like, this is how the Ravens are going to beat us. Because at that point, I was like, I think we're going to lose. Because, like, what the heck? They get away with that. And then they double it up the next time. And it was just like, this game was just so crazy.
It was unbelievable. And my dad said that he's been watching football for a very long time. He brought out his, who did he bring out? Was it his Rocky Bleier jersey? I think it was a Rocky Bleier jersey. He brought it out at halftime. He texted me a picture of him wearing it and said, desperate times call for desperate measures. And I'm thinking to myself, my dad is not the type of person to wear jerseys. He's got his Rocky Bleier jersey and he's got his Jerome Bettis jersey. I can't remember the last time I've seen him wear one of those jerseys. So you know that it's a big deal when he busts out one of his jerseys. And he said that I've been watching football a long time. He says, I don't think there's ever been a crazier game that I've witnessed with my own two eyes. And I almost fully agree with him, especially, I mean, I've watched a lot of football. I've been a fan for as long as this team has won their last Super Bowl back in 2009. I've been watching the Steelers ever since then. And even still, like, yes, there have been so many crazy games, but I can't fathom how this one ended. Like, you talk about that near sack that would have put him in fourth and forever, essentially would have iced the game if we could have just ran out the clock from there. And then it's like, nope, not this time. We're going to keep going. And that wasn't even the end of it. There were 3 more touchdowns after that moment with less than 3 minutes left. Like, unbelievable, just bang, 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 haymaker, a shotgun, bang, bang, bang. Like, Ravens Steelers epitomized in that fourth quarter. And to your point on that play, that was like Lamar Jackson turning back into Lamar Jackson because he has not looked like that for a while this season. And in my mind, it was like, how are we going to respond to that? And sure enough, Aaron Rodgers did, though.
Yeah, he did. And I think that I agree that this might be the most insane game ever because there's like 5 plays or 6 plays in here that only happen once in another game. Like none of these things happen twice in any other game, but you have so many. And that was like my whole thing. So, like, okay, they score that touchdown. Then we don't score. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. And then they score on that blown coverage. And I was like, that's a bummer, but like we might be able to score. And we score. Then we missed the extra point. And I was like, I was just in shock, I think, because I was like, you've got to be. There's no way we missed that. I was thinking we were going to go to overtime, but now I'm thinking we're going to lose. And then they get that great kick return. And so in my mind, I'm just watching and I'm like, oh gosh, like here we go. We're about to, like, this is just going to be horrible. And then they get that penalty. It's 3rd and long. Then I think it's 4th down.
The third down play before that, though, when Herbig almost had Lamar sacked for like 20 yards, you
Oh
know?
my goodness. That was insane. And then the 4th down, my hope is back. I'm like, okay, like this is a bad spot for the Ravens. Like we can win this. And he throws up this air ball. And that was when the tears almost came back. Because when they caught that, I was like, there's no way after all the things that have happened in this game. Like again, it was just the Ravens. And it was just like, that's how they're gonna freaking beat us. And I was just so upset. And I thought he was gonna make it, guaranteed. And then
Well, on that play, too, Jalen Ramsey, what has he done all season long? He's just lit people up and forced these incompletions. But that time, for whatever reason, he goes for the interception when all he had to do was just lay into Isaiah Likely. No way he's holding on to the football if he just lays him out like he has been all season long.
yeah, that's a great point. Because the whole time I was just like, I was like, what are the odds that Ramsey plays it so perfect that he misses the ball completely? Like the way that ball was thrown. And I was like, there's no way he just goes up and catches that. And I was just like, that's it. Like I was like, are you kidding me? I thought the game was over. They send out the kicker. And I mean, I just went from just being distraught to just pure joy. Like I was like, what on earth? Me and Kaylee were both just silent for like 30 seconds. I was like standing up with my hands on my head with my terrible towel. And I was like, did we seriously just win? And I mean, it was just amazing. It couldn't have gone any better at the end of it.
I'll tell you this, and I texted you very briefly, very early in the game. I forget at what point it was. It might have been after they kicked their first field goal to go up 10-0. And I think you said something like, my hype level is done. Like, I'm done with this game. I'm sick of this. And I told you, I said, David, it's the first quarter. And I was Mr. Optimist in that moment. And I'll tell you this, and, if you don't believe me, then sure, you're entitled to that opinion. But I'm telling you to believe me. There was not a second in this entire football game that I thought the Steelers were going to lose. Even when they were lining up to kick, I did not think that they were going to lose. I just knew in my heart of hearts, I just had this feeling, the feeling that we've had, a long time, like for this Steelers team. I knew that they were going to lose to the Browns. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that they were going to lose to the Browns. But at the same time, I just knew somehow, even after Boz missed his extra point, that the Steelers were going to win this game. And the way that I can prove this is the moment it comes off of his foot and it begins to tail to the right, it hadn't even left the uprights as far as my view goes. The moment I saw it start to tail right, I got up out of my chair, I grabbed my terrible towel, and I ran out the door. I didn't even hear Mike Tirico's call. I didn't even hear Chris Collinsworth. I knew the moment it started tailing right that it was going too far right. I got my terrible towel. I ran downstairs. I ran out of the garage, and I ran halfway down the street, waving my terrible towel in the middle of Cleveland, and just absolute pure joy. I could believe it, but in layman's terms, no, I could not believe it because it was just the most unbelievable ending. And it's the only time in NFL history that a winner-take-all final game ended on a missed field goal with the game on the line, as if it's like if he makes it, they go. If he misses, they don't. It's the only time in NFL history that this has ever happened.
Unbelievable. And I'm glad you had the confidence that I didn't going into this one because yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was much nicer to watch the whole game thinking we were going to win the whole time because I was just so on pins and needles, especially in the first half. And there's just so many plays. Like even we're missing this play that feels so random and feels so what the heck. But it got us the 3 points that basically ended up winning. It was the Lamar Jackson batted pass that just fell right into TJ Watt's lap. Watt was like, oh, like what's this? It was just that was crazy. And I think that yeah, if this, yeah, I mean, I just don't even know what else to say about this game. It's so crazy, and Yeah, it was the first Steeler game in a long time that I've like waited to see the post game talks and like people talk about it. And it was the first Steeler game in a long time that I was like, I don't want to turn it off. Like I want to keep hearing what they're saying because this was amazing.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, I watched on my computer because I don't have a TV to watch on right now, but I was the same way. Usually when the game's over, I just turn it off and that's it. But I kept it on and I was listening to the post game interviews between all the players, Cam Hayward, all this stuff. Like I wanted to hear what people had to say because I mean, it was just a historic night. And I think people around the NFL were saying, as much as they thought that, yes, this was scripted in a way to get to this point, the NFL did a pretty good job. And, again, Ravens Steelers, you can't beat Ravens Steelers, especially with the implications that this game had. And I mean, it was just an unbelievable game. And it's one game that, kind of like I said a couple weeks ago with the Lions, I want to make this charge again to Steelers Nation saying, hey, enjoy this. Because in a week's time from now, we might not be enjoying things, but more reason to just enjoy life right now. I mean, I literally had to tell myself, like, I need to go to bed tonight. Like, I took a melatonin. I'm like, I need to go to bed because I have work in the morning. And I mean, even the morning that I woke up, it's like, I didn't even think I got a wink of sleep. And the moment I woke up, I'm playing Here We Go Steelers, and I'm playing the Steelers polka, and I'm playing all these songs on my way to work. I'm just cheery. I wore my Steelers, my pullover and my beanie into a workplace in Cleveland, Ohio. Full disclosure, full happiness, full joy. I mean, you couldn't wipe the smile off my face, for 48 hours afterwards. I'm still smiling about it. I mean, this is 2 days gone by now, and I'm still just overjoyed at the outcome of what happened.
Yeah, and it felt so good to have that joy in the end. No matter what happens next week, like this game will just take home forever. Like, it's so iconic. I mean, have you heard like they're finding out that a priest was blessing that side of the field? And it's just like, oh my gosh, what an epic game. And it was so nice. Like funny, you were in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. The Jags are, hot. Everybody in my office loves the Jags. And I've been coming in week after week where it's like they're like, oh my gosh, we look like a Super Bowl contender. And I'm just like, yeah, well, the Steelers, they're my team. But this week, I was like, did you guys see that game? Like, come on, that was the game of the week, probably the year.
Absolutely. And we have every right to be talking this up. And, it's just that I'm failing to find words. My dad called me yesterday and he's like, did you go to bed last night? Are you still smiling? Like, what's going on? And I'm telling him, I'm like, I've been just riding this high. And, I don't know if this high is going to go down until we actually kick off on Monday night. But this is, again, one of those games that you're going to look back in 20, 30, 40 years and be able to tell your kids and your grandkids about. It's like, that was one of the moments of all time, one of the great moments in NFL history. And it came on a missed field goal. And it's just unbelievable, like unbelievable stuff. And I mean, we've been talking about like the end of the game and the offense and stuff, but you mentioned it a little bit too. TJ Watt getting an interception in his first game back. I was wondering how he would look at all in this game. I thought he looked pretty decent. I thought that he had a couple of times where he was just a tick slow getting to Lamar on the very last touchdown, or actually it was the Isaiah Likely play at the very end. TJ was like a half second too late to getting to Lamar on that play. I'm like, how amazing would that have been if he just ended the game right there? And sure enough, we got probably an even better ending. But you look across the line, Cam Hayward, if he's not an all-pro this year, I don't know what the NFL is doing, because he had one of the best games that we've seen out of him in a long time. And that's saying something, because he has been on a heater for 2 straight years, and this one might have been his best game yet.
I agree. And I feel like this past month specifically, he just kicked it into high gear. And like this game, he just felt all over the place. Like I just remember like just always seeing him protruding through the line of scrimmage, always there ready to make a play. Like he, the pass defended, he was just playing out of his mind. And I loved it. And that's what, again, made it felt even more Steelers Ravens was just his elite play. And then TJ Watt, for where he's at, he had a great game and he made some good plays and brought some good pressure. And it was just a great defensive performance, I think, to see, minus a few plays. You like if you get rid of these blown coverages or this fluke, well, it might not have been a fluke. Lamar is Lamar, but breaking that sack, and you got Zay Flowers and Queen together, who, by the way, a little bit of kudos to Queen because he was with him for most of that run. And I was just like, I can't even believe that he was that close because Zay Flowers is so fast. And so, yeah, I think that defensively, this past month, maybe a little more, we've kind of brought our standard back up a little bit than what it was for the rest of the year.
I think getting a lot of guys healthy again in this game was huge. I mean, obviously, TJ, you didn't know how much you could expect from him coming back from a, truly life-threatening ailment. I mean, he said before the game, they're like, are you going to be limited at all? And he said to them, he's like, no, I'm not limited at all. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna leave my heart on the field. And I will say too that the look of having Watts, Herbig, and Highsmith on the field at the same time is something that I'm really loving. And they saw that look. The Ravens did a lot in this game, and it really gives me a lot of hope going forward because, I mean, we've talked about it how we're so deep on our edges right now. And if you've got Herbig going right up the middle and you've got Watt and Highsmith collapsing on either side, I mean, quarterbacks, I don't care who you are. I mean, even Lamar struggled with this in this game. If you've got quarterbacks that are a half second too late, like those guys can be very explosive when they're all on the field at the same time. And I'm glad that they've unlocked this like specifically this game.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think that it's like a necessity because seeing us blitz when those three weren't together, it was a bit rough. Like, specifically, I like, Patrick Queen. He has good games and bad games, but some of his blitzes were just like rough. Like, especially the blown touchdown plays. Like, the one, it was like we blitzed, but Keanu Benton fell down, and then Patrick Queen was getting stood up by like a 5'8" guy. And it was just like, well, I mean, what can you do when you got that going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a very big difference, and like we've seen Queen come on blitzes and get there. We've seen Ramsey come on blitzes and get there. But if you've got three edge rushers that you could probably say are all fairly elites at what they do, and you've got that going on as well as the combination of Benton and Hayward, and then you throw Derek Harmon in there occasionally. That's a front face that is dangerous and is scary to opposing quarterbacks and offensive lines. I mean, the amount of pressure they got in this game was great, I thought.
I agree, and I'm excited to see. I don't want to talk about next week too much, but I'm excited to see how this like blitzing pressure defense will work against a quarterback that isn't as mobile and isn't as shifty as Lamar. Because even though we had so much pressure, we didn't tally a ton of sacks. And I would love to just get back to the Blitzburg that we are and get those sacks. And so I'm excited to see this unit bring that pressure and hopefully get a higher result.
As far as the offense goes, are you Are you happy with the overall complexion of what this offense is? Taking into account the fact that we didn't have DK Metcalf, we no longer have Darnell Washington. Getting these guys coming back. We're going to talk about the Texans in a different setting here, but as far as what the offense was in this game, being a very diminished version of itself, what did you think of that overall, and does it give you a little bit of hope?
I think the offense, I think I feel the same about the offense. I probably feel a little bit better, but I think I feel the same of like, we know what this offense is going to do. Like, if we can connect with DK Metcalf, we're going to be productive. If we can do the things that like we wanted them to do all season long, we're going to stay in there the whole game. And I think that, the Ravens defense is just not even close to what it's been. Like, you look at the last time we played them, Fryermuth and Warren both being wide open for touchdowns, and then this Calvin Austin play, which was just a great just play by Austin. But I think I feel the same. Maybe I feel a little bit better of like, okay, you know, I mean, imagine Rodgers slinging it around in a close game with Metcalf on the field. That's something that could be a little exciting. But I think that with offense, I feel like we've seen our ceiling, we've seen our floor, and it just really depends on how they show up that day.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And again, I think that the way that this offense was structured coming into this game, the way they performed was the only way they were ever going to win this game. Calvin Austin, obviously, with the massive play at the end, breaking the dude's ankles. I thought they threw to Pat Fryermuth in key situations. And, even Adam Thielen, like the one kind of daylight play that they had where Rodgers just put it right over the cornerback's back shoulder to Thielen. I mean, that was pretty. And I want to see more of that, frankly.
I do too. And I think that that's like I've said that a few times throughout the season. Where is that Rodgers? Where I watch a highlight and I'm like, why or how did that throw work? And that was one of them where it's like that was a perfect pass. And I think that speaking of Thielen, yeah, he had some good plays, and I liked him when he was on the field. And they were doing a great story of like his family's on Christmas break right now, so they were up in the stands watching, and like, oh my gosh, watching that, I was just like, oh my gosh, like win for Thielen, like just like this guy, like I didn't know when he first came to us that the Vikings let him go because he wanted a chance to be in the playoffs, and so after finding that out. It comes off a lot better and a lot like, oh my gosh, yeah, like heck yeah, like come with us, we'll see what we can do. And I mean, yeah, that pass was great. And I think that we did see a decent amount of vintage Rodgers. I think, what was it? Um, he had two kind of scramble runs. The first one made me roll my eyes so big. because of what happened there. And then the second one, I was like, oh, he redeemed himself. And I was like, dang. And if he had stayed in bounds, he would have gotten like maybe 15 more yards. Like that was a good play. But yeah, he redeemed himself there. He redeemed himself in this fourth quarter with how the first half specifically went. Um, and so, yeah, I'm walking away. I don't have a lot of gripes, except with Arthur Smith. I think that you make a good point of like, there has just been I feel like recently too, earlier in the season, I didn't notice this as bad, but recently there's just been plays or sets or drives where it's just like, what? Like, just like what? Like, one of the Sunday night guys at halftime made a really good point of like, I actually like the play call where you pitch it to Gainwell and you shift Smith. And he was like, but you've got to have a check play for when you line up and there's two guys still over there. Like when there's one guy, yeah, Gainwell probably can beat him. But like when you've got a guy who's being blocked and two other guys that get there, you've got to have a check play, I'm like, I don't know why we didn't. I also don't know why we didn't just do the tush push, the true brotherly shove, because that was working great.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because Chris Collinsworth, he looked down, he's like, is that Cam Hayward on the field? And Mike Tirico's like, no, it's not. And then Chris Collinsworth is like, yeah, that is Cam Hayward. And then you get to that moment, and the first one didn't work, and that was like, oh, great, that's not good. But then they try it again the second time, and if they get in for the touchdown, it's like, yes, that is the true brotherly shove. And, I mean, I don't know how long they've been working on that play, but it seems like we're getting new versions of the Connor Hayward tush push each week. And I love that because you're not being predictable. You're not getting into the point where you're conditioning other teams to know what's coming. But now it's like, that's a viable play. And we've been running it very well outside of maybe, I think twice we've failed it. But for the amount of times that we've tried it, it's been working a lot.
Yeah, and I really like our ingenuity almost with it. And I'll say this. Do I like the tush push? No. But hey, it's working. And I love how we've kind of taken, honestly, from the Ravens, where it's like a few times we've done that, him roll out and run, and it'd be super successful. And then I loved on the touchdown tush push that we went so quick. Like, it was so hilarious watching the Ravens linebacker run over and trip over and fall over one of the D linemen. Like, they had zero chance on that play. And one of them was just completely lined up offsides. I was just like, that's awesome. Like, you're making a team look foolish.
And I think that part of that too, I think, is Aaron Rodgers orchestrating those things too. Because even like, I think before, like early on in the season, when we see him like getting mad at the sidelines, I think you specifically were like, why is he just getting so mad? And I was kind of in the same boat too. But now over the course of the season, I'm seeing it's like, he wants to go fast here. You should listen to him. When he wants to do something, Aaron Rodgers is the one that should be getting his way. It shouldn't be Arthur Smith. It shouldn't be Mike Tomlin. It shouldn't be anybody else. If Aaron Rodgers sees something, you have to listen to him. And he's usually the one that orchestrates when we got to go quick. We got to go quick. Those are the times where we're very successful. And when we don't do what he wants, usually that's when we fail.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think that, like what you were saying, my tone has changed when he does that, especially in this game. Like when he was yelling at the sidelines, I was like, heck yeah, like get him. Like, I'm like, what the heck? Like, figure this out. And so I think I was like, he had the whole off season or practice season to like work through that. So when things aren't working, he's gonna get mad. And I was like, I've only watched this team for 4 weeks or something. But like now I'm like, I've watched this team and I'm aged in it just like he is. And I'm like, yes, I am also yelling. I'd be yelling too if I were running this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And the question is, if we didn't win this game, what happens? What happens if we don't win this game? It's a simple question. What happens if we don't win this game?
I think that if we don't win this game, nothing. I think that Rodgers maybe retires. Probably retires. I think that he is probably going to retire, but because we got into the playoffs, he's just throwing around this maybe comeback, which I think he should ride into the sunset. Even whatever happens in the wild card game, this game is just like put your hat on that and call it a day because that was amazing. That like, and you're undefeated against the Ravens as a Steeler. Like, come on, like you've done enough. I don't think Tomlin gets fired.
Really?
I just feel like until I see it, I don't think I'm going to believe it. Like, I just, he's gotten away with it so many times. And like, once again, the cloud is back. Like him beating the Ravens, I think that the media is now again torn on what to do with the guy. And again, I'll go back to, yes, this was one of the best games I've ever watched in my whole life. But is it impressive as a coach? You know what I mean? Like, you like, I don't know. I think that, look, Mike Tomlin, you can get your flowers. You get your 500. You get the playoffs. You beat the Ravens, which is like, I love it. But again, he's still not a great coach, specifically in development and leadership. but I don't know if he gets fired because of the contract isn't there. I don't think Rooney feels this hot seat like the fan base in the city of Pittsburgh does with Tomlin. I think Rooney loves Tomlin. I think he's like, why would I get rid of you? Like, I'm in the playoffs every year because of you. So in my gut, I would say he wouldn't have been fired, which would have just been horrible. But what would you think?
I don't think he would have gotten fired either. And coming into the game, I thought it's like very easy. And I think I mentioned this earlier. Whoever loses this game is going to get fired. And thankfully, we were on the good side of it. And sure enough, John Harbaugh did get fired. But the way that I was seeing it, it's like, even like when they're lining up to kick the final field goal, I'm thinking to myself, even if it goes through the uprights, Tomlin gets off scot-free because he should have won. You know? That's all I was thinking about this whole time. And I'm like, in a different realm, if I wasn't so confident that we were going to win, I'm thinking to myself, man, we're going to have to do this again. 9-8 again. Go to the playoffs, miss the playoffs by a game, losing the playoffs in the first round. Like, I didn't think that he was going anywhere if they lost this game. And that's just because of the way the game played out personally.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think that, like, man, it seems like he only does this at Baltimore because my dad sent me a GIF. But, you saw him after the game. He's like super pumped. The missed field goal, the camera's on him, and he blows that kiss. And I feel like he literally only does that when we beat Baltimore. And so I'm just like, okay, like, yeah, that makes me happy. We beat Baltimore, shove it in their face, right? But I'm just like, it's just so hard. And I think I just got to look past it and be like, listen, I gotta root for my team the best I can, even if I don't agree with the leadership that is running it. And we'll get to the playoffs in the next episode, but I think if he wins the home playoff game, we can kiss him ever getting fired goodbye. And so in that case, go win the whole dang thing. I think this team, specifically the offense, is nothing without Aaron Rodgers. I am scared out of my mind to watch this offense without Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf getting mad. So like now's the time. Let's strike whatever. I'll put it all behind me for now, Tomlin, for these however long we're in the playoffs. Like go win a ring and you can go out in peace and it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But I'm also interested to see what happens. I think that I'm sure we'll talk about it, with offseason stuff. I feel like we'll be talking about who the Ravens hired just as much as anything that happens with us this offseason. And even where like Harbaugh goes, because I don't know what Harbaugh's going to do. Because for a coach, he's up there in age, so like he really could retire if he wants to. So I'm really interested to see how that breaks down and who we'll be up against. Because I think there are some good candidates. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, as far as Mike Tomlin goes, to answer everyone's dying question, no, my opinion of him has not changed. But my love for the Steelers has not changed. And so, look, I'm going to be super against you when we're going to miss the playoffs because I think it is solely because of you that we're going to miss the playoffs. So I think you should go. But if you get us to the playoffs, my heart is going to be right on that table thinking just win this one. Like, just win. I don't care about anything outside of this field right now. Just win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very well said. And it's interesting to figure what's going to happen to this Ravens-Steelers rivalry. You said that earlier in the episode. And a couple of stats I want to throw out just before we finish this one off. In the entire 30 years of the Ravens-Steelers rivalry, 66% of the games that these two teams have played have finished in a one-score game. 66%, 2/3 of the games that we have played against the Ravens in 30 years have ended in a one-score game. But I'll do myself one better. 41.5% of the games that the Steelers and Ravens have played in 30 years have ended in a field goal or less margin. 41.5%, nearly half of the games that these two teams have played in 30 years have ended in a field goal or less margin.
That is insane. And I'd love to, it's a little hard to do this statistic, I'm sure, but I guarantee you the number is 50 or higher at how many of those games like coincided with life or death playoffs or were playoffs. And I think that it's just like, this is truly, no matter what happens in the future now that Harbaugh's gone, this is a timeless rivalry, the best rivalry. I think that people will look back. Who knows? Is the era over now that Harbaugh's gone? Maybe, maybe not. A lot of pieces in Baltimore still look like they're there. So I think that this rivalry is still going to be kicking. But whenever it dies down a bit, this will be because you mentioned Green Bay and the Bears, and it's like, yes, they have a rivalry, but right now, excluding this season, it's been very one-sided. And so if that ever comes to the Ravens and Steelers, it's going to be looked at like the Packers and Bears of this is still just the best rivalry ever.
And the Steelers and Ravens is such a young rivalry because, again, the Ravens have only existed for 30 years. And sure, the first couple of years, like in the late 90s and the early 2000s, the Steelers dominated a lot of that. But it's almost like the moment that we saw Harbaugh and Tomlin come together, from then on, it's just been pound for pound AFC North football. And that's the other thing. This rivalry is so different from any other rivalry that you can think of because, sure, like the Packers and Bears hate each other, and there's a long history. It is the longest rivalry in the history of football. But as far as the quality of Ravens Steelers, like, there's not a single person on the Steelers that likes a single person on the Ravens. Heinz Ward had the famous quote. It's like, we don't like them and they don't like us. Neither of us are going to be inviting the other to dinner afterwards. We're going to be, this is played in a dark alley. It's not played on a football field. It's played on a dark alley. Like, this is Ravens Steelers. You think about the legends of this rivalry. Big Ben versus Joe Flacco. You think of Suggs. You think of Palomalu. You think of all of these legends that have been a part of this rivalry over the course of time. And even after Flacco left, you get the insertion of Lamar Jackson, but you also get the crazy Kenny Pickett game in Baltimore, the touchdown pass to Najee Harris. You get these unbelievable games every single time that these two teams play each other. Like, again, there are some amazing rivalries in football right now, but there is not one better than Ravens Steelers in the last 30 years of the NFL's existence. I will say that with complete confidence and complete conviction.
I will too. And I think that it goes to show, like, it doesn't even matter who's on the field. Like, I think of 2020 when we were playing, like, I think a Wednesday game, and it was Trace McSorley out there, quarterback maybe, and we were 10-0 at the time. And that came down to an unbelievable James Washington third down catch to clinch that game. It was a one-score game. And it's like, should that have been a one-score game? Like, no, we should have crushed them, but it's the Steelers and the Ravens. And I think it's just crazy to think, like, man, Harbaugh was in the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. He had a playoff win and was a drop away from going to the AFC Championship again last year. It just goes to show you, it is literally, again, I've said it, I'm blessed. It's like it's the Ohio State Michigan of the NFL, and I think right now it's better than Ohio State Michigan because everyone wanted Ryan Day fired because he couldn't beat Ohio State, but we were getting to the playoffs, we are going to do these things. Who cares? And that's exactly what happened to Harbaugh. Who cares? You didn't beat the Steelers when you needed to.
Yep. There's always implications. There's always injuries. There's always drama. There's always everything in this rivalry. And again, it's just me reiterating the fact that it is the best rivalry in football right now, and arguably even in its short lifespan ever in the NFL. And we're blessed to be able to watch it. I mean, you said it last week that you're very blessed to have both of the best rivalries in major football in America, represented in your fandoms. And nothing gets me more fired up for Ravens Steelers, and nothing got me more fired up for Ravens Steelers Week 18, Sunday Night Football on NBC for the division. Like, again, how many times have we been able to say that? Like, again, the Immaculate Extension, like all of these things, like, it's just unbelievable what we've been able to witness in this rivalry. And, to our credit, it's like our dads, they didn't have Ravens Steelers when they were like around our age. Like, Ravens Steelers was just coming into existence. We've had this rivalry for the entirety of our lives, which is just, it's just super cool. And like I said, we'll be able to tell our kids about, like, the 2025, 26 version of Ravens Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I sent this text to you. I don't even know where I sent this, but right when the game started, I was just like, there is nothing better than a Heinz Field night game against the Ravens. There is not a better vibe in football than that.
No. And I wish I would have gone. I wish I would have gone. I had the opportunity to go. I actually elected to go to the Penguins and Blue Jackets game in Columbus because I was making my way back towards Cleveland. And I saw a very, very good game there, too, with the Penguins actually coming back and winning a game that I attended. I mean, that Sunday was one of the best days that we've had in Pittsburgh sports ever. I mean, going back to what I started the episode with. I mean, we thought it was pretty darn good 2 weeks ago, but this last Sunday was better in many, many, many ways.
Yeah, I agree. I think in Pittsburgh sports, because, like, I think 2 weeks ago, it's like both teams, though great things happened, we were still like, are we anything? Are we good? But now it's like the Steelers are in the playoffs and the Penguins are on a wicked hot streak right now, winning some games in overtime that, we haven't been able to do in the past. And it's like, and we're being good teams. So it's like, yeah, we're in ascension right now in Pittsburgh, and hopefully it stays that way for a little bit longer.
Hopefully that is the case. And if you're wondering why the heck it's almost been an hour and we haven't talked about the Texans game yet, surprise! We're going to make that its own episode this week. You're getting extra Boardman Black and Gold for this upcoming Steelers and Texans in the first round of the playoffs, the wild card round. And we are also having an outside perspective episode this week. So for the first time in, I think, podcast history, you're getting 3 episodes of Boardman Black and Gold in the same week, and we couldn't have had a better week to do it because we're riding off the highs of this historic Steelers-Ravens game. We've got this insanely, I think, personally winnable game against the Texans coming up. We'll talk about that in that episode. And we've also got an outside perspective episode with a Texans fan, a very, very diehard Texans fan that I think you guys are really going to like that episode. So with this, David, do you have any final thoughts on the Ravens-Steelers game? Did we wrap everything up? Did we get everything we needed to talk about in?
I think we did. I think we talked about how this is a game that's going to be spoken up for a while. I mean, and honestly, I think we've said that with some Ravens Steelers games the past few years and been like, we would talk about this for a while, depending on how the postseason goes. And it hasn't gone well. I don't care how this postseason goes. This will be a game that will be talked about for a very long time.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, Boardman Black and Gold is always sponsored by Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 919-406-4679 to turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. Steeler Nation, enjoy this one. This was an unbelievable game, a game that emotions might never have been higher in our bellies, and hopefully we can continue to ride this momentum. And with that, we will sign off for this episode of Boardman Black and Gold, but make sure you tune in later this week because we have the Texans to talk about. The Houston Texans and the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field. Zane and David going to break it all down here on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. Make sure you tune into that, as well as our outside perspective with our resident Texans fan later this week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Boardman Black and Gold. Here we go, Steelers. The Ravens are at home, and we can be very happy as we go into the later portions of this week. We will see you in the next episode.